The sky darkened ominously over the quiet town of Willow Creek. Rain clouds churned like molten steel, and the wind howled through the narrow streets. Ethan Carter, a single father struggling to make ends meet, wiped sweat from his brow as he climbed the rickety ladder to the Johnson family home, a modest cottage in desperate need of repairs. He had been hired to patch a leaky roof, but as he surveyed the dilapidated shingles, he knew a storm was coming tonight that could ruin everything inside. From below, a young woman watched him anxiously, hands gripping the railing. She had a certain air of grace and composure, yet the worry in her eyes betrayed the vulnerability beneath her polished exterior. Ethan didn't know her story. He didn't know she was wealthy beyond imagination, the owner of sprawling estates, businesses, and properties that stretched across half the state. To him, she was simply a client in need, a human being struggling against nature's wrath. And sometimes, kindness isn't about knowing wealth or status. It's about acting when someone needs you most. 1. A struggling father's resolve. Ethan had not always been this way. Once, he had ambitions of his own, a college degree, a secure job, but life had other plans. After the sudden death of his wife, he was left alone with his young daughter, Lily, forced to take odd jobs to provide food and shelter. Every day was a balancing act: work, care for Lily, and survive. Yet despite the exhaustion, he had a principle that guided him. If someone needs help, do what you can, even if it costs you something. As Ethan climbed the slippery roof, he felt the wind tug at his balance. Rain was beginning to fall in earnest, soaking his clothes and making the shingles treacherous. But he pressed on, knowing that the alternative, a flooded home, ruined furniture, and a terrified family, was far worse. From the porch, the woman he was helping, Selena Hawthorne, watched silently, impressed by his determination and courage. She had hired contractors before, of course, but none had shown the kind of persistence and care that Ethan demonstrated, even as the storm drew closer. 2. The first act of kindness. Minutes became hours. Ethan worked tirelessly, hammering shingles, sealing leaks, and ensuring that the roof could withstand the impending storm. Every movement was precise, every decision informed by experience and instinct. "Are you sure this is going to hold?" Selena asked nervously, her voice almost drowned out by the wind. Ethan paused, looking down at her. "I'll make sure it does," he said firmly. "I've seen worse roofs and worse storms. This one will be fine by the time the first drops hit." Selena nodded, tears welling up despite herself. She wanted to thank him, to offer something in return, but something about the sincerity in his eyes stopped her.
She didn't need to.
He wasn't doing this for gratitude. He was doing it because it was right. By the time the sun set and the first sheets of rain began to fall, the roof was secure. Ethan descended, soaked to the bone but triumphant. Lily ran to him, wrapping her tiny arms around his waist. "You're the best, Daddy," she exclaimed. Ethan smiled, ruffling her hair. "We're safe now. That's all that matters." Selena watched from the porch, heart pounding. She had never seen anyone care so selflessly, so completely. And at that moment, she realized that there were people in this world who acted purely out of kindness, without regard for wealth, status, or consequence. 3. The calm after the storm. As the storm raged outside, Selena invited Ethan and Lily inside to warm up. She offered towels, blankets, and a hot meal. Ethan hesitated at first. He was a man of pride, after all, but Lily tugged at his sleeve. "Daddy, it's okay. She's nice," she said innocently. Ethan relented, allowing them to enter. The house was surprisingly modest inside, a mixture of warmth and elegance that hinted at wealth, but felt lived-in real. Over dinner, they exchanged stories. Ethan spoke of Lily, the challenges of being a single father, and the odd jobs that kept them afloat. Selena listened intently, captivated by his resilience and honesty. "And you did all that in the storm?" she asked finally, astonished. "You didn't have to risk yourself like that." Ethan shrugged. "Someone had to. You can't just watch people struggle when you know you can help. It's that simple." Selena's eyes softened. She had spent her life surrounded by wealth, deals, and obligations. She had never encountered such uncalculated, selfless kindness. 4. An unseen connection. As the rain poured outside, Selena began to realize something. Ethan's courage and humility were rare, almost foreign in a world dominated by money and power. She felt a stirring, a desire to recognize and reward that kindness, even if it meant crossing the boundaries of her own privilege. But Selena also knew she couldn't reveal her true identity immediately. Her fortune was known across the state, and she wanted to see his character, his integrity, untouched by the influence of wealth. She decided to remain anonymous for now, allowing Ethan's natural goodness to shine. It was a test, yes, but also a lesson in humanity, that true generosity doesn't require recognition, and that the heart of a person is revealed in their actions, not their circumstances. Lily snuggled beside Ethan, feeling safe and warm. "Daddy, she's nice. Can we see her again?" Ethan smiled softly, realizing that kindness had a ripple effect. One selfless act, fixing a roof in a storm, had created trust, connection, and perhaps even a spark of hope for a brighter future. 5. The decision that would change everything. As the storm subsided, Selena made a choice. She would not reveal her wealth yet, but she would ensure that Ethan and Lily were safe, comfortable, and supported in ways he couldn't yet imagine. She left a small envelope on the kitchen counter, marked simply, "For emergencies, use wisely." Ethan found it later, opening it to discover enough money to cover medical bills, rent, and unexpected expenses for months. He was stunned, but he didn't feel gratitude in the shallow sense. He felt hope, the kind that came from knowing someone believed in your integrity enough to trust you with their resources. Selena watched from the street, unseen, a quiet smile on her face. She had witnessed something rare, a man who acted from kindness, without ego or calculation. And she knew that when the time was right, their paths would cross again, and everything would change. The days after the storm passed in a quiet rhythm. Ethan returned to his daily grind, odd jobs, taking care of Lily and keeping up the small apartment that had become their sanctuary. Yet he couldn't stop thinking about the woman with the worried eyes who had watched him work through the storm. Selena Hawthorne had left the envelope of emergency funds anonymously, but her impact lingered. Every time Ethan and Lily ate a warm meal or stayed dry and safe, he silently thanked an unknown benefactor. He had no idea just how profound that kindness was or who it truly came from. 1. A strange invitation. 1 week later, a polished envelope appeared in their mailbox. No return address. Inside was a simple card. "Dinner tonight. I want to thank you personally." Ethan frowned. His life rarely had invitations, especially not from strangers. But something about the handwriting, elegant yet understated, compelled him to accept. Lily bounced beside him, excited. "Daddy. Maybe it's the lady from the storm." Ethan chuckled. "Maybe, kiddo. But let's be careful, okay?" That evening, they arrived at a small, privately owned restaurant. There, seated at a quiet corner table, was Selena. But the woman who had watched him climb the roof was different now. She wore a designer coat and subtle jewelry. Her posture radiated confidence and wealth, yet her eyes, those same gentle eyes, still held warmth. 2. The truth unveiled. "Ethan," Selena began, her voice soft but firm, "I suppose I should have introduced myself properly sooner. My name is Selena Hawthorne, and I own quite a bit more than you probably imagined." Ethan blinked. You own half the state? Are you serious?" Selena nodded. "Yes. It's a responsibility I carry, but I wanted you to see me as I truly am before all of that came into play. When I watched you fixing my roof during the storm, I didn't see a rich man or a powerful woman. I saw someone with integrity, courage, and selflessness. I saw a man who acted because it was right." Ethan's jaw dropped. He had never imagined the woman whose home he had patched under driving rain held that kind of wealth. And yet, she still regarded him as human first, not a worker beneath her. Lily, ever perceptive, tugged at Ethan's sleeve. "Daddy, she's nice. Can we be friends?" Ethan smiled. "I think we already are, kiddo." 3. The life-changing bond. Dinner passed with laughter, stories, and shared meals. Ethan spoke of his daughter, his struggles, and the small victories that kept him going. Selena listened, fascinated by his resilience and humility. Most people with your character, she said, get overlooked. But I believe that the right opportunities can change lives. I want to make sure you and Lily never have to worry about survival again. Ethan shook his head. I don't want charity. I want to live with dignity. I work hard. I take care of my daughter. Selena's eyes softened. And that's why I want to help you. Not as charity, but as recognition of your courage and heart. You earned it with your actions. Her words were transformative. For Ethan, it wasn't just the money. It was the acknowledgement, the respect, and the validation that his life and choices mattered. 4. Small acts that build trust. Over the next weeks, Selena introduced small changes in their lives. She arranged scholarships for Lily's education, medical coverage for unexpected emergencies, and helped Ethan find better-paying work that respected his skills. But more importantly, she built trust. She didn't impose, control, or demand. She was a silent partner in their lives, respecting boundaries and nurturing independence while offering stability. Ethan noticed something unexpected. He began looking forward to her visits, to their conversations. He admired her not just for her wealth, but for her humility, her empathy, and her ability to recognize and honor true character. 5. Redemption and hope. One rainy afternoon, similar to the storm when they first met, Lily asked Ethan, "Daddy, do you think she'll help people like she helped us?" Ethan smiled. "Yes, kiddo. That's the kind of person she is. She listens, she cares, and she acts when she can. That's real kindness." Selena, watching from across the room, realized she had found more than gratitude. She had found friendship and respect. In Ethan, she saw a man who had faced hardship without bitterness, who had cared for another without expecting reward, and who inspired her to see humanity in a new light. For Ethan, the revelation of her wealth didn't change his view of her. He respected her for her kindness first and foremost, and that mutual respect became the foundation of a bond neither anticipated. 6. A life forever changed. By the end of the season, Ethan and Selena's worlds had intertwined. Their connection grew, not from money or status, but from empathy, trust, and shared humanity. Ethan could now provide more for Lily than ever before, not out of desperation, but because someone believed in him. Selena had found a purpose beyond wealth, a way to use her resources to honor courage, integrity, and simple human kindness. And Lily? She learned a profound lesson, that genuine generosity comes from the heart, that prayers can be answered in unexpected ways, and that the people who truly matter in life are those who act with love and integrity.